Hi, Dr. Francis Yu here. Today I want to talk about the MBTI. In particular, I want to go through a series of misconceptions and misinformation people have. So, as a physician and a Myers-Briggs type indicator certified practitioner, I find that one of the things I want to do is really clarify these things and show physicians just how useful it can be. So what I did was I asked a bunch of physicians what their questions or experience with the MBTI was, and I have a list of questions, and I'm going to be doing a video series to reply to these comments and questions. So here is a big one. Here's a great one. So, hi, I find that the MBTI is entertaining, but the results are fickle. I have taken the test several times with very different results. If the MBTI was a medical test, it would be less like a genetic test, unchanging, and more like a blood sugar level, changes by the hour, if not the minute. So there's a lot to unpack here, and so number one, the MBTI is entertaining. Yes, that's true, but the insinuation or implication you hear is that there's not a um, deep, profound use for it because the results can be so different all the time. Uh, but for me, I disagree that the results. I mean, not the result. It's entertaining from a superficial perspective. I like philosophy, psychology, personal development, and things like this, and I find those things entertaining. It's just what I do in my free time, and I find that MBTI is deeply useful, and thus why I find it entertaining to talk about. So, the next point here, the results are fickle. So yes, that's actually very true. And when you take the actual MBTI, if you do it with someone who knows what they're doing, they emphasize to you to take it from a perspective of your off shoes self. If you take the MBTI at your work, or maybe with your extended family, or maybe in your chess club or your book club, you will have a different persona and way you like to perceive yourself in those different situations. So in that sense, taking the MBTI is going to give you different results because you behave and you do things differently, perceive information and make decisions differently based on who you're with and where you are. So the results can be fickle because our thoughts are not the same every time and the way we perceive ourselves. So yes, the it is like a fluctuating our how we are and what we do are fluctuating from moment to moment. But what the MBTI wants to get to is the underlying uh, behavior and preferences. So I agree, the results are fickle. Uh, if done correctly, they are less fickle than they should be, but there's still room for errors to say. So I have taken the test several times with very different results. The same answer, it's yeah, that's going to happen, but that's really not important. So let me explain to you how the MBTI process actually works. So most people just do it online. They Google MBTI or whatever. They do a search, or they may even participate in a workshop led by someone who doesn't really know what they're doing. It's true, right? There's plenty of people who say can teach you this and that, but they don't really understand the roots of it. So how it actually works is that once you sign up to work with a MBTI certified practitioner like myself or whomever, you get the link to the questionnaire, which we call the Myers-Briggs type indicator, the actual questions. And then you take it with instructions to take it off in your off shoes self. And then you don't get your result. All the online versions, you get your result right away. But that's not how it works in the official format. How it works is that the person you signed up with gets a result, but they don't share them to you right away. What happens next is that you get a presentation, whether individually, in a group, whichever, the official deck of slides, a presentation that describes the history, theory, and dichotomies of all the 4 pairs of letters. So introversion versus extroversion, sensing versus intuition, feeling versus thinking, judging versus perceiving. So it's typically an hour. I've done it where if you speed it through, it can be less than an hour, but you kind of lose the transmission of the ideas. So it's an evolved process, right? Because even taking the questionnaire, the MBTI, is not something you do in 5 minutes, which is kind of the online version. That's really a longer process. So number 1, you took the questionnaire sent to you by the practitioner. Number 2, you got your presentation. And after the presentation, using the ideas from the presentation, you come up with what you think your 4 letters are. And then number 3, you compare those 2 results. And hopefully those 2 results are the same. But a lot of times they're not. But that's not important at all, really. Now it'll be unfortunate if all 4 letters are different. But again, that's not the end of the world either. What you're supposed to do then, let's say you got INFP as your MBTI result when you did the questions, and during the presentation you got INFJ. So really the next step, which is you can say, oh, that's all you do. It's called finding your best fit type. Is you get a copy digitally or a paper or book copy of this booklet called Introduction to the MB Myers-Briggs Type. And then this book basically has a lot of theory, but it has descriptions of each type. And then you would read the INFP description and INFJ description and basically decide which one you are more like. That's pretty much it. So in that sense, the actual questions and the doing all the questions and such is, in my opinion, not super important, although I don't know if I'm going to get hate mail or something from people and organizations for saying that. But in the end, it's really about identifying the type that you are most like. The test, in this day and age, I feel like it takes people away from the actual process of figuring out your type. Alright, so hopefully that was helpful, and I'm going to be doing a bunch of more of these videos because I have a slew of questions and comments. So thank you for joining me in the MBTI series by Dr. Francis Yu, and the sub-series is Answering Misconceptions and Misinformation. Subscribe if you want to get more stuff like this, whether MBTI, Enneagram, personal development, self-awareness for physicians, and see you soon.